Welcome back to the channel, Goldback Gurus, and welcome to all you potential Goldback haters and all the Goldback curious. I just needed to make this video in order to dispel some of the myths kind of surrounding Goldback premiums. I come across people every day on Facebook or Reddit, Twitter, and real life. They're just flat out wrong about the Goldback premiums. So I just wanted to lay out the math just right in front of your very eyes so that you can see that Goldbacks have the exact same return as gold coins or bullion of the equal weight. So watch and see, watch and learn. So as long as you put your thinking cap on and stick with me, and we're going to play a little game of Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader, test out your math skills here, okay? So here we go. We're going to compare the ROI of a 1 ounce gold coin at spot to 2 1/10 ounce gold coins, and finally 100 Goldback, which is also 1/10 ounce of gold, actual gold weight, to see which one has the better ROI. And so before we go on, just leave a comment on which one you think has the best ROI. And so Goldbacks first came out in 2019, and the average spot price of gold for that year, according to Grok, was roughly $1,400. So we're going to take that number, 1,400, and use that for 2019. So let's just say you were able to buy 1 ounce of gold at spot. You melted down some jewelry and you got, some 1 ounce of gold that somebody sold you at melt, right? So you can buy that for 1,400. And then later on that year, let's say you saved up some money and you wanted to buy 2 1/10 ounce gold coins, okay? And so let's figure out what that would cost, right? So we can take the spot price of gold, which is 1,400, and divide that by 10 to get the value of one of those gold coins, which would be 140. You multiply that by 2, right, to get 280, the cost of 2 gold coins. Now there is a premium, right, involved with that. So that premium, let's say, we'll be generous and say it was only 10%. Back in 2019, premiums on fractional was higher, so it's probably more like 15%, maybe even higher, but we'll be nice and say 10%. So that would make it $28 for the premium, right? So those two together, add that up, $308 initial investment for 2 1/10 ounce gold coins, okay? So that's all mathing so far, right? Okay, and now let's say you wanted to buy 100 Goldbacks. Back in 2019, the largest denomination they made was 50 Goldbacks, so let's say about 2 of those, which has the actual gold weight of 1/10 of 1 ounce, right? And so we know from our example above that 1/10 of 1 ounce of gold at 1,400 is $140 of actual gold weight, right? And this is where a lot of people get lost, right? So the premium for a Goldback is, let me check my notes here. Oh my gosh, gasps in horror and spits out water. It's 100%, right? So that's $140 premium for $140 of actual gold weight. And so most people, that's where you lose them. They say, I'd rather buy more gold instead of paying for that premium, right? But we're going to see here why that doesn't matter. So you have a $280 initial investment for your 1/10 of 1 ounce of gold, compared to a $308 investment for 2/10 of gold, or $1,400 for 1 full ounce, okay? Forward to today, 2026, first week of March, gold just passed $5,300. So that's the number that we'll use in our example here, 5,300. So had you bought 1 ounce back in 2019 for 1,400 and cashed out today at 5,300, that gives us a difference and a gain of $3,900. And then if we do the math with one of my favorite formulas, is over of equals percent over 100, we would take 3,900 times 100 and then divide by 1,400 to give us our return as a percent, which is 278%. not too shabby, right? And then we can continue on and figure out that with our two 1/10 ounce gold coins. And so if gold is 5,300, and we divide that by 10, that gives us $530 for one 1/10 ounce gold coin. And then multiply that by 2, and that gives us $1060 for actual gold weight. And then let's say you were able to sell it and get all of your premium back, that 10% that you initially paid. That would be $106 for the premium. So say you got all that back when you went to sell it, you'd have $1166 right there. And then if you subtract your initial investment from that, that would give you your return of $858. And if we do the same formula that we did above there and take 858, multiply it by 100, divided by our initial investment of 308, that would give us the, oh, would you look at that? The exact same return as we did above, 278%. And then we'll continue on and do that again with our Goldbacks. So we got our 250 Goldbacks, so it's 100 Goldbacks total, 1/10 of an ounce. So again, we know from above that's $530 of actual gold weight. And then once again, the premium on that is $530, right? Giving us a total value, if you went to use it or sell it, of $1,060. With our initial investment of $280, if we subtract that, then you're looking at a return of $780 compared to $858. But you invested less, right? So, and then we'll figure out what that is as a percent. So we'll do the same thing, 780 times 100 divided by 280, and then we get, oh my goodness, look at that, 278.57, which is the exact same as both of the other options. So you guys, there it is. I don't know what else I can say, but it's right there in front of your eyes. There's all the math. Now we can debate, a couple percentage points, here and there, but you get the gist. It's not like it's some big con or some big ripoff. You get back the premiums when you go to use them or spend them. And that's ideally what you do, right? You go to one of over 3,500 merchants that now accept them, and you use them. Right? So if you had bought $280 worth of these, right, back in 2019, and then you held on to them to today, you could go to one of those merchants and buy over $1,000 worth of goods or services, right? So that's the idea. So I hope that all makes sense. Hope that clears things up. If it did, please like and subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest and greatest Goldback news. And better yet, if you just share this video with anyone that's ever said, oh, but the premiums, it's, I get it. It's hard to articulate exactly why Goldbacks are the same or better. Better because of the network that you can use them in, better because of the built-in security features, the fractionality, the fungibility, the portability, and the artwork's cool. So it's a bunch of cool stuff that you get with the Goldback that you don't get with the other options, right? So, appreciate you watching the video. And you can always visit myfreegoldback.com to get your very own free Goldback. All right, thanks guys. Take care, gurus. Bye.
What if you could take something as ancient as gold and turn it into a state-of-the-art digital asset? Today, we're going to unpack a really fascinating new financial system that's trying to do exactly that. It uses the power of insurance and well-established commercial law to build a bridge between physical wealth and digital liquidity. Let's see how they're pulling it off.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with a massive insurance policy, then see how it gets translated into a kind of universal data language. From there, we'll follow the trail all the way to the creation of a digital asset that can actually plug right into the traditional banking system. Let's get into it.
Let's start with the anchor for this whole system, over $100 million. And this isn't just some number on a screen, This represents the real insured value of physical gold, and it's the solid foundation this entire digital structure is built on.
And that really brings us to the key question, right? How on earth can a property insurance policy, something you'd normally use to protect against, theft or damage, be repurposed into an engine for creating new funding? Well, the secret is all in how that policy is documented, structured, and then put to work. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning, with the tangible, insured asset that grounds this whole digital system in physical reality.
So, what you're looking at here, this is the cornerstone of the entire operation. It might look like just another standard insurance form, an ACR 27, but it is incredibly powerful. This is the legal proof that a company called Alpine Gold has over $100 million in physical gold insured by the legendary Lloyd's of London. You can think of this as the system's birth certificate.
You see, this policy is way more than just insurance. In this world, it's what they call the indemnification anchor. It's the ultimate financial backstop. Every single digital asset that gets created in this system is legally tied directly back to this one master policy. That's what gives it real-world value and rock-solid security. And hidden away in the fine print of that policy is this little number, a $2,500 deductible. Now, it might seem pretty small in the grand scheme of things, but as we're about to see, this exact figure gets repurposed into an automated critical trigger for the entire digital ecosystem. So remember that number. So we've got our physical collateral, but for all these different computer systems to be able to talk to each other about it, they need to speak the same language. And this is where the system gets really clever, because it borrows a universal standard straight from the insurance industry. That common language is the ACORD standard. It's basically a universal translator for insurance and financial data. What it does is make sure that everyone and everything, including a smart contract on a blockchain, is reading and interpreting all the policy information in exactly the same way. No miscommunications. This diagram here shows how that standardized language works in the real world. You've got information being sent from one party to another, and it passes through a verification step. Since everybody's speaking the same ACORD language, the data just flows smoothly. It creates a secure, verifiable record of every single transaction. And this standardization is unbelievably powerful because it allows a huge range of documents to become machine-readable and totally verifiable. We're talking about everything from simple application forms and driver's licenses to really complex corporate trust documents. They can all be formatted to speak this one unified language. Okay, so we have the anchor, the physical gold backed by that master policy, and we have the universal language of ACR standards. The next step is to combine them to actually forge a new kind of digital asset for an individual client. It happens in a four-step process. First, the rules of that master policy are programmed into a smart contract on the blockchain. Second, a client's information gets formatted using that ACORD standard. Third, a special operator on the network validates all this data and creates a unique digital file, a JSON file, which is kind of like getting a digital notary stamp. And this right here is the absolute key. That digital file becomes what they call a triple threat asset. It's not just a record of data. It is a tradable asset that you can buy or sell. It's collateral you can use to get a loan, and it's your own personal insurance policy, all linked back to that huge $100 million master policy. It's literally all three things in one. All right, let's circle back to that $2,500 deductible we saw on the master policy. This is where that small number becomes the automated spark that ignites the entire tokenization process. That $2,500 is coded directly into the smart contract. It becomes the fiduciary trigger. It's just a simple but really powerful automated rule, an if-then statement that just sits and waits for a very specific condition to be met before it does anything. And here's the logic. If a client funds their gold account, and if that balance hits that $2,500 threshold, then the smart contract just executes, automatically. That single action is what kicks off the tokenization sequence, turning the value of the physical gold and its insurance coverage into liquid, usable digital assets. Now, this all sounds fantastic in the digital world, but the final and maybe the most important piece of this whole puzzle is connecting it back to the traditional financial system. I mean, how does a tokenized asset on a blockchain become actual funding you can use? What this system is really designed to do is fundamentally change the whole basis of lending. Instead of relying on subjective things like credit scores and these opaque, behind-closed-door underwriting processes, it shifts the focus to something a bank can actually verify, a perfected, insured physical asset. The value is totally transparent and legally sound. So how is that bridge actually built? It really all comes down to translation.
Because the digital asset is backed by real gold, insured by Lloyd's, and uses that ACOR standard, it can be translated into the language of commercial law. This lets operators file standard legal documents, UCC forms, that banks understand and trust. And that, in turn, allows the banks to issue letters of credit, which effectively turns that digital asset into real-world cash.
So this leaves us with a pretty provocative final question. By combining the old world trust of physical gold and Lloyd's of London insurance with the new world tech of blockchain and data standards, is this architecture creating a real, viable blueprint for a new kind of financial bridge? One that truly connects the security of the past with the efficiency of the future?
All right, let's get into it. Today, we're going to break down a really fascinating and honestly pretty complex financial framework that's laid out in our source material. We're going to start with a super simple idea and then, layer by layer, peel everything back to see the incredible machinery working underneath. So it all kicks off with a really straightforward promise. Just imagine this. You've got a debit card, and you can use it to pay for everyday stuff, like gas or groceries. But instead of drawing from a bank account, it's tapping directly into a vault of physical gold that you own. That's the hook, the simple, easy-to-grasp entry point into this whole system. So for you, the user, the experience is designed to be totally seamless. The documents talk about a core strategy they call seasoning with Caesar. The idea is pretty simple. Keep your real wealth in gold and only convert the bare minimum into regular cash when you absolutely have to pay bills, like your rent or mortgage. Everything else, well, it stays as sound money. But how does that actually work? Okay, this is where we start to go a little deeper, because what's actually backing that simple debit card isn't so simple at all. It's a really sophisticated foundation built on 3 completely different types of assets. This is where the complexity really begins. You see, the whole framework splits the assets into this 3-tiered structure. At the very bottom, you've got gold ounces. Think of that as your deep storage, the foundation. In the middle, there are gold dollars, which are used for more tactical moves. The documents call it ratio playing, which is basically just trading between asset types to take advantage of price shifts. But the real key for you, for daily use, is that top tier, Goldbacks. These are the insured, liquid currency you can actually spend. And here's the kicker. All the gains from those other 2 tiers, they ultimately get settled into Goldbacks. Now, here's what holds the whole thing together. The entire system is anchored by a massive $100 million master insurance policy. According to the source material, this policy comes from the North American Monetary Exchange Corp., and it's underwritten by Lloyd's of London. This policy is what provides the rock-solid collateral for the entire structure. But to actually get access to this incredible protection, there's a trigger. You, the user, have to keep a minimum balance of $2,500 in your account. That $2,500 basically acts as the deductible for that giant master policy. And the moment you hit that threshold, the system's automated functions kick into gear. Okay, so you have physical gold and it's insured. That's great. But how does that become digital money that you can swipe at the gas pump? Well, this is where the framework introduces a really core concept it calls tokenomics. The source defines tokenomics as the process of hypothecating insured physical value. Now, that's a fancy word, but in plain English, it just means you're using your vaulted gold as collateral to create digital tokens. It's the smart contract engine that builds a bridge from the physical world of gold to the digital world of finance. And this part is just brilliant because it shows you how automated the whole thing is. The second your account hits that $2,500 trigger, a whole chain of events just happens. First, an AI drafts a compliant smart contract. Then, that contract points to the $100 million insurance policy as its main collateral. And finally, it uses some really slick automated tools like flash loans, which are basically instant no collateral loans in the crypto world, to automatically pre-fund a digital wallet for you. It's a completely hands-off pipeline from that trigger to spendable money. So with the foundation set and the engine humming, the framework then lays out some, let's just say, very ambitious strategies for what it claims is massive value generation and control. A really central idea here is something they call lading. Since goldbacks are treated just like cash inside this ecosystem, lading is the practice of just cycling them through transactions over and over again. The idea is that every single transaction adds to the total volume of value being managed. So you're effectively multiplying the economic footprint of your initial money. And that leads us to what the documents call the 1% rule. And this is where the claims get really, really bold. The framework puts forward this model where an initial $1,000 can somehow be used to control $1 million in total value. The logic, as it's outlined, is that by doing about 10 transactions with that first $1,000, you generate a transaction history that adds up to $10,000. That $10,000 history, according to the source, then becomes the 1% seed capital you need to unlock control over a $1 million pool of value. It's a huge leap, all based on the power of moving money fast. And here's a fascinating little look behind the curtain. The documentation actually advises a specific tactic. They say, promise your clients they'll hit that $1 million aggregate in 12 transactions. Why? Because the math actually gets them there in 10. So the system looks like it's over-delivering on its promise, which, builds trust and keeps people happy. And if you thought that was it, there are even more advanced strategies. One of them involves not leasing the physical Goldbacks, but leasing the digital tokens that represent their value. And get this, according to the source, these tokens can be leased out at a really high fixed par value of $18,000. This tokenized value can then be used as a financial tool in other crypto ecosystems like Solana, or even leveraged against other physical assets like silver. So, you're probably asking, who on earth manages all this complexity? Well, the whole system builds up to a central figure, someone who orchestrates this entire process. This person is called the Lex node operator, and the source material frames them as way more than just a consultant. They are the fiduciary hub, the bridge between the physical gold and the digital rules, effectively letting them act as their very own private central banker. To help you understand how an operator scales up, the documents use a fantastic analogy. It's like a game of Monopoly. Getting what they call a Goldback box is like buying a house on the board. It's that first major asset that gives you access to the system's core banking functions. Adding an ATM terminal later, well, that's like upgrading your house to a hotel. And make no mistake, this is a very active role. The operator has to physically possess the assets to make money from them. They're expected to do outreach to 50 to 100 prospects every single day, with the very specific goal of finding just 2 entrepreneurs who really get it. They're even told how to describe the purchase of a Goldback box as hardware or equipment to make it easier to get a loan for. The final command for these operators is a really clear and powerful one. It positions them as the undeniable architects of this entire financial system, and it pretty much sums up the whole philosophy. Convert the debt, hold the gold, and rule the mathematics. So what's the takeaway here? What we have is a framework that presents this meticulously layered system, taking us all the way from a simple debit card to the idea of private central banking. It really makes you think about the line between true financial innovation and a system that's just built on layers of complex jargon. The world it describes is one where, if you possess the assets and follow the rules, the outcomes are presented as nothing less than a mathematical certainty.
Possible financial paradox.
It genuinely sounds like modern alchemy when you first hear about it.
Right, exactly. I want you to picture this scenario. You take physical gold, you back it with a $100 million insurance policy from Lloyd's of London, and then you digitize that exact value on a blockchain.
Which is wild enough on its own.
Right. But then you leverage it to secure traditional bank funding. And the kicker here, you accomplish all of this without ever actually selling a single ounce of the gold.
When you first encounter the claims, the immediate instinct is to just dismiss it as financial fiction. It sounds too good to be true.
It sounds like a scam, honestly.
Exactly. But diving into the documentation reveals that it is not magic at all. It is a highly structured, heavily regulated architecture. And it's deeply rooted in the oldest pillars of commercial law and insurance underwriting.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand how this machinery actually turns, we have to sift through some incredibly dense, albeit fascinating source material.
Oh, dense is an understatement.
Seriously. So what do we have on the table? We are looking at the ARISAI 4.0 Notarial Memorandum, which is just a beast of a legal document.
A total beast, yeah.
We also have our hands on an actual ACORD 27 evidence of property insurance form. We are parsing through DTCC attachment implementation guides.
Perhaps the most interesting piece.
The operational transcript.
Yes, providing the most color here. We're analyzing a leaked operational transcript from a network of individuals operating as LexNode operators.
That operational transcript is really the Rosetta Stone for this entire deep dive.
It really is.
Because the technical manuals, they show us the blueprint, but the transcript shows us the building actually being lived in. It takes all these abstract legal theories and just demonstrates the ground level application.
So our mission today is to tear this fiduciary trust architecture down to the studs. We are going to explore exactly how these operators are bridging ancient sound money with permissioned smart contracts.
And how everyday people use it.
Right. How they are utilizing standardized data protocols to essentially force legacy Wall Street infrastructure to recognize their decentralized asset-anchored funding.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we really have to understand the fundamental stakes here.
Yeah, lay that out for us.
Well, the operators building this architecture are not just putting together a new crypto investment portfolio.
This isn't just buying Bitcoin.
Not at all. They are orchestrating a complete paradigm shift. They are moving entirely away from traditional consumer finance. The world where you walk into a bank, you hand over your FICO score, and you literally ask for permission to borrow their liquidity.
Hoping they say yes.
Right. Instead, they are stepping into the realm of fiduciary law and commercial remedy. They are constructing private, fully compliant central banking utilities, and they're using standardized trust as the foundation.
Is the difference between opening a checking account and chartering your own financial institution.
Exactly.
And to charter any kind of robust financial entity, you need a foundation that cannot be shaken by market volatility or, counterparty failures. You need an anchor.
You need something solid.
And the sources refer to this foundational rule as the sound money mandate.
The sound money mandate is the absolute non-negotiable bedrock of this entire ecosystem. The ARISAI 4.0 Notarial Memorandum makes it abundantly clear. Practitioners operating within this fiduciary trust architecture are required to use physical gold.
Not paper gold.
Physical gold. Specifically, they utilize Goldbacks, and these assets must be held in a United Precious Metals Association, or UPMA, account.
I think the immediate question anyone looking at this would ask is, why are they so militant about using physical gold?
It's a fair question.
I mean, if the end goal is to build a highly agile tokenized trust on a blockchain, why not just wire $1 million of US fiat currency into an escrow account and build the smart contract on top of that? It seems easier.
It does seem easier, but the ARISAI memorandum addresses that head on by dissecting the actual legal nature of fiat currency. Fiat cash is fundamentally a debt derivative. When you hold a physical dollar bill or even a digital dollar in a bank account, you're holding a liability of the Federal Reserve.
Right.
You're holding a promissory note that is perpetually losing purchasing power. So if you attempt to build a decentralized, immutable, asset-anchored system on top of a debt derivative,
you're building your fortress on shifting sand.
Exactly, because the underlying collateral itself is a liability to someone else.
It introduces immense counterparty risk.
Huge counterparty risk, and it severely complicates the legal standing of the trust. Gold, conversely, carries zero counterparty risk.
Because it's an asset that is not simultaneously someone else's liability.
Right. Within this specific system, physical gold acts as the operational fiduciary engine.
Which really recontextualizes the UPMA account entirely. It's not just a savings account or, a safety deposit box where you just park your shiny assets and forget about them.
No. Legally speaking, the UPMA account serves as the designated depository for the trust res.
The trust res.
Yeah, in trust law, the res is the core collateral. It's the actual subject matter of the trust. So by depositing the gold into the specific association framework, the operator is establishing the physical foundation for a highly structured financial ecosystem.
But a pile of gold in a vault in Utah is still just a pile of gold.
It's just metal.
Right. To turn it into a commercial instrument, you need to wrap it in a layer of undeniable institutional security. And that brings us to an incredible piece of paperwork.
The anchor.
Yes, the entire digital and physical ecosystem we are talking about is anchored by a very specific document. It's an ACORD 27 Evidence of Property Insurance form.
The ACORD 27 form is the master anchor. I mean, without this document, the entire digital architecture just falls apart.
Let's look at the staggering details provided in our sources regarding this specific policy. Because this isn't some fly-by-night underwriter.
Not at all.
The policy is held by the North American Monetary Exchange Corporation, which does business as Alpine Gold Exchange. The underwriting is provided by certain underwriters at Lloyd's of London.
which is an institution that has been insuring global maritime and commercial risk for centuries.
Exactly. And the coverage limit at their primary location in Alpine, Utah is $100,600,000.
That is a massive policy.
It's huge. And the policy also includes additional highly specific limits for daily sendings and personal conveyances of the precious metals.
Now, any insurance professional or commercial lawyer analyzing this setup might raise an immediate red flag regarding that ACOR 27 form itself.
Right, because of what the form actually is.
Exactly. By its very legal nature in the United States, an ACOR 27 form has strict, explicit limitations.
It's a standard form.
Yeah. The document typically states right on its face that it confers no rights upon the additional interest named on the form. It is issued strictly as a matter of information.
It's an FYI, basically.
Right. It does not amend, extend, or alter the actual underlying insurance policy. And the massive coverage limits shown might have already been significantly reduced by paid claims.
So it essentially functions as a disclaimer. It's a piece of paper that says, hey, this policy exists, but this piece of paper doesn't give you the right to claim the $100 million.
That is the traditional reading of the form, but the fiduciary trust architecture executes a brilliant legal maneuver here.
This is where they flip it.
They do. Within their ecosystem, they are not using the ACOR 27 form to claim they own the insurance company or that they have direct access to a $100 million payout.
Okay.
They are utilizing this document strictly as the indemnification anchor and the master collateral memorandum.
I see where this is going. The policy exists solely to indemnify the insured against ascertained net loss arising from physical loss or damage to the physical gold sitting in the UPMA vault.
You've hit the nail on the head. They only need the form to prove that the physical collateral is indemnified by one of the oldest, most robust insurance markets on the planet.
They're proving a shield exists.
Yes. They are proving that a $100 million shield exists over the physical assets. And in the realm of commercial trusts, that verified proof of indemnification is all the leverage you need to start building digital trust.
That makes a lot of sense. Let's bring this down from the macro institutional level to the individual level, though.
Sure.
How does a normal person, let's say you, the listener, actually integrate into this system? The sources detail a requirement for what is called a tripartite custody and tokenization agreement.
The tripartite structure is brilliant in its distribution of liability and control. It involves three parties.
Tripartite, naturally.
Right. Party number one is the real man or woman, that is the client, acting legally as the secured party or the beneficiary of the trust.
Right.
Party number two is the Lex Note operator, who acts as the fiduciary agent. They manage the technical and notarial duties.
Got it.
And party number three is the UPMA, acting as the bailee. They are the entity with physical custody of the gold in their highly secure vaults.
This structure perfectly integrates traditional commercial law. The operational transcript actually leans heavily on the old legal maxim that possession is 9/10 of the law.
They cite that constantly.
Yeah, but they are formalizing that concept strictly through the Uniform Commercial Code, the UCC.
The UCC integration is really what makes this architecture commercially viable in the United States.
Because it roots it in existing law.
Exactly. The Goldback itself is a marvel of material science, vacuum deposited 24 karat gold sandwiched between polymer layers.
Beautiful notes too.
They are. But legally, because it is physical gold formatted as a standardized spendable note, it is treated as a compliant negotiable instrument under UCC Article 3.
Article 3, okay.
Yes. And simultaneously, the UPMA account holding those specific instruments acts as the basis for a secured transaction under UCC Article 9.
So the client is not just hoarding raw bullion or unrefined shiny rocks in a basement.
No.
They are holding recognized negotiable instruments within a recognized secured depository, perfectly aligning with centuries of established commercial law.
The LexNote operator's role here is to establish a perfected security interest over that precious metal collateral.
Right.
They do this through active physical management instructions to the UPMA and immutable notarial recording on their ledger. So the physical gold is secure. It is fully indemnified by Lloyd's of London, and its legal status as collateral is bulletproof under the Uniform Commercial Code.
That sets up an incredibly robust physical and legal foundation. But it leaves us facing a massive logistical canyon.
The digital jump.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have a stack of physical polymer-wrapped gold in a vault in Utah. You have a PDF of an ACOR 27 form from London saying it is insured against loss.
Yeah.
You have a UCC perfected security interest.
Right.
How on earth do you translate those highly physical, traditional, paper-based legal realities into digital, programmable liquidity on a distributed ledger?
You have to build a bridge.
Yeah.
And you cannot expect Wall Street to cross the bridge into the blockchain world. They won't do it.
They have no reason to.
Exactly. The blockchain operators must build the bridge into Wall Street. And to do that, the decentralized architecture must speak the exact, uncompromising language of legacy finance.
Meaning the formatting.
Right. It must translate the physical gold and the paper insurance into data that a legacy banking server can instantly ingest, recognize, and validate without a human ever needing to intervene.
Which pulls us directly into the deep end of standardized data formatting. Because if there is one thing that massive legacy financial institutions love more than anything else, it is rigid standardization.
Oh, they demand it.
They process quadrillions of dollars globally. They do not have time to interpret creative data formatting.
The legacy systems are incredibly fragile in their rigidity. If data does not fit perfectly into their predefined boxes, the system just rejects it outright.
And that is exactly where the ACORD life and annuity standards come into play, specifically version 2.20, as explicitly noted in our source documents.
ACORD is the global data standards organization for the insurance industry. They provide an open, industry-wide XML vocabulary.
XML. Okay.
Yeah, XML provides a framework for encoding documents in a format that is both human-readable and universally machine-readable. What ACORD has done is ensure that complex insurance data is consistently modeled across the entire global industry.
So whether an underwriter is sitting in a skyscraper in Manhattan or a server farm in Frankfurt, a policy is always defined with the exact same structural data tags.
Consistency is the entire point. Every message sent using the standard features a mandatory standardized header, things like TX Life Request or TX Life Response.
And that's followed by the specific business data payload.
Exactly. This rigid consistency eliminates translation errors between different corporate databases. If a server receives data that deviates even slightly from the recognized ACORD XML schema, it simply refuses to process it. It drops it.
When we talk about the receiving servers in the financial world, the ultimate final boss is the DTCC.
The Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation.
Right. They are the central nervous system of Wall Street. They clear and settle virtually all securities transactions in the U.S. Our stack of sources includes a DTCC TCC attachment implementation guide, and their rules for how data moves through their network are borderline draconian.
The DTCC does not play games with data integrity.
They really don't.
If an institution wants to pass a document through the DTCC network, say a TIFF file containing proof of insurance or a PDF application, they were strictly prohibited from simply attaching it to an email or a standard message payload.
Just attaching a PDF is a no-go.
Inline attachments are entirely forbidden. The rules mandate the use of a highly specific protocol called MTOM.
Message Transmission Optimization Mechanism.
Right.
It's an incredibly dense way to say, we have a very specific way we want you to package your files.
It is a mechanism for sending binary data via web services using a specific SO key wrapper. But what is truly revealing in the DTCC implementation guide is how their automated systems handle errors.
This part is crazy.
The rules explicitly state that rejections occur at the entire message level, not the individual attachment level.
Wait, if the payload is bundled, they don't isolate the bad data.
Not at all. Imagine a broker sends a data packet containing 5 crucial attachments regarding a massive commercial trust. 4 of the documents are perfectly formatted using the ACORD schema, and they're wrapped flawlessly in the MTOM protocol.
Perfect so far.
But the 5th attachment has a slightly invalid MIE type, or the XML tag is slightly malformed. The DTCC system does not accept the 4 valid documents and flag the 5th for review.
It kills the whole thing.
It forcefully rejects the entire message payload. It is a complete failure.
It's an absolute zero tolerance gauntlet. But looking at this from a broader perspective, it begs a massive structural question. Why do the architects of this decentralized fiduciary trust care about the DTCC and ACORD schemas. I mean, if the whole point of a Lex node operator running a blockchain node is to build a decentralized peer-to-peer trust architecture, why are they spending so much time agonizing over the legacy formatting rules of Wall Street clearinghouses?
This is perhaps the most strategically brilliant aspect of the entire operation.
The Trojan horse aspect.
Yes. The Lex node operators know that for their clients, the Justice Fund Exchange prospects, to actually utilize their wealth in the real world, they eventually have to interact with legacy banking.
You can't avoid it forever.
Right. They will need a traditional line of credit to buy a warehouse or a standby letter of credit to secure a massive commercial contract.
And traditional banks don't accept raw smart contract code as collateral.
They absolutely do not. So the Lex node operator takes the decentralized digital collateral, which we know is backed by the physical gold in the Lloyd's policy, and formats the data surrounding it to perfectly mirror these strict ACORD and DTCC standards.
They are building a highly advanced, trustless digital asset, but they are dressing it in a perfectly tailored traditional finance suit.
That's a great way to put it. They are building a Trojan horse made of data.
When the legacy bank's automated underwriting system sweeps the file provided by the Lex node operator, it doesn't trigger any internal alarms about unregulated crypto assets.
No flags at all.
It just sees a perfectly structured ACORD XML schema, securely wrapped in an MTIM protocol, verifying an active Lloyd's of London insurance policy that backs perfectly legal UCC Article 9 physical collateral.
It checks every single box the legacy algorithm requires to approve the file. The legacy system swallows the data perfectly because the Lex node operator spoke its language flawlessly.
That level of systemic camouflage is incredible. So we have this perfectly formatted data ready to deploy, but having the data structured correctly is only half the battle.
Right, you have to execute.
We have to look at how the blockchain actually executes this trust on the back end. Here's where it gets really interesting. This requires looking at the role of the operator, the mining of these specific files, and an incredibly elegant piece of code.
The fiduciary trigger.
Yes, the $2,500 fiduciary trigger.
The execution layer is really where the theoretical legal frameworks transition into active, programmable financial energy.
And the ARISAI 4.0 Notarial Memorandum redefines the person sitting at the computer doing this. A Lex node operator, or LNO, is not just a crypto trader clicking yield farming buttons on their couch.
No, the memorandum elevates the LNO to a certified sovereign underwriter and a civil law notary.
That distinction carries massive historical and legal weight. A civil law notary is very different from a standard notary public who just, stamps a driver's license at a local bank.
Very different. In civil law jurisdictions, notaries are highly trained legal professionals who draft, authenticate, and archive critical commercial instruments.
They are bringing a centuries-old legal tradition of commercial arbitration and document authentication directly onto a distributed ledger.
The LNOs are executing what the ARISAI memo calls M3 conveyances. They are tasked with notarizing, arbitrating, and underwriting these high-value commercial trusts.
So it's not just moving tokens.
Right. When an LNO processes a transaction on the Justice Fund Exchange, they are not just moving a digital token from wallet A to wallet B, they are applying their sovereign notarial seal, they are mathematically attesting to the real-world existence, the indemnification, and the legal transfer of the physical gold collateral sitting in Utah.
Let's trace the actual deployment path of that $100 million master collateral memorandum, the Lloyd's of London policy.
Okay, let's trace it.
The Lex node operator takes the parameters of that master policy and deploys it into a Solidity smart contract on the blockchain, but they don't use standard crypto tokens. The sources explicitly mention the ERC 3643 standard.
The choice of ERC 3643 is deliberate, and it's necessary for commercial compliance. Well, most of the crypto space operates on ERC 20 tokens. Those are standard permissionless utility tokens. Anyone can buy, sell, or trade them anonymously.
Go Wild West.
Exactly.
Yeah.
ERC 3643 is an entirely different architecture. It is known as the TRX standard, token for regulated exchanges. It is designed specifically for permissioned compliant securities.
It embeds the rules into the asset itself.
Yes. It allows the issuer, in this case the LNO, to build regulatory compliance, identity verification, and strict transfer restrictions directly into the smart contract governing the token.
So if a wallet isn't approved, the transaction just fails.
If a wallet does not have the verified digital identity credentials required by the trust, the token physically cannot be transferred to it. It makes the asset intrinsically compliant.
And baked into this highly regulated smart contract is a trigger that is just a masterpiece of legal and technical synergy.
It really is.
Going back to the ACORD 27 form we analyzed, it showed a specific $2,500 deductible for the Lloyd's policy.
The deductible, right.
The architects of this system took that exact legal metric from the paper world and hard-coded it into the ERC 3643 smart contract as the automated fiduciary trigger.
It functions as an unblinking, automated if-then statement governing the entire trust. The smart contract is programmed to constantly monitor the aggregate balance of the client's UPMA Gold account via an oracle.
And I can see exactly why they chose that number. The moment the aggregate balance of the client's gold hits exactly $2,500, the smart contract essentially wakes up.
Exactly.
It recognizes that the deductible has been met, which means the remaining value of the trust is now actively indemnified by the $100 million master policy.
It is the ignition switch for the entire architecture. Hitting that $2,500 threshold automatically executes the tokenization sequence.
And what does that do?
It activates the fiduciary protection clauses embedded within the notarized custody agreement. It takes the physical gold backing, pairs it inextricably with the ACORD standardized insurance coverage, and converts the whole package into highly liquid, perfectly compliant digital assets.
The LNO facilitates all of this through a very specific kind of mining. They're mining JSON files.
Right, JSON.
These aren't just lightweight data interchange formats holding random code.
Right.
The LNO is actively mining, structuring, and validating highly specific JSON files on the Justice Fund Exchange notary chain.
The operational documents list several core examples of these files. There's the asset deposit.json, the tokenization trigger.json, and the Goldback lease agreement.json.
Okay.
The Lex node operator applies their cryptographic notarial authority to validate the data structures within these files.
And because these JSONs are meticulously structured to adhere to the ACORD XML standards we discussed earlier, they achieve something entirely unique in the digital space.
They do.
Once the LNO validates them, they sit in the prospect's digital wallet and function as a commercial triple threat.
A single JSON file in this ecosystem serves simultaneously as three distinct legal realities.
Break those down.
First, it is a digital asset with intrinsic value. Second, it is perfecta collateral that can be borrowed against. And third, it is an insurance subpolicy. It's a notarized exchange contract proving the underlying asset is protected against physical loss.
It is the ultimate commercial Swiss Army knife.
That's exactly what it is.
It is money, it is a pledge for a loan, and it is a guarantee of indemnity, all wrapped into a single, flawlessly formatted piece of code residing in a secure digital wallet.
And crucially, because the data tags inside that JSON align perfectly with DTCC and ACORD requirements, a legacy banking server can ingest that file and instantly comprehend its commercial value.
So we have successfully digitized the gold, indemnified it, and made it legible to legacy finance. But if the physical gold is just sitting in the UPMA vault, and the mandate says you can never sell it for fiat, how does the Lex node operator actually grow the value of the trust?
Right, where's the yield?
Exactly. How do they generate yield and extract commercial energy from this setup without breaking the cardinal rules?
This is where the Lex node operator transitions from acting primarily as a notary to acting as an active, highly tactical treasury asset manager.
The source documents dedicate significant space to the concept of treasury management via flash loans.
They do.
Now, in the broader crypto space, flash loans have a notoriously chaotic reputation.
Oh, absolutely.
People use them to borrow millions of dollars without collateral for a fraction of a second just to execute high-risk arbitrage trades across different decentralized exchanges.
And a significant percentage of those traders end up losing their capital to slippage or front-running bots. It's incredibly risky.
But within the strictly permissioned walls of the fiduciary trust architecture, flash loans are stripped of their speculative risk and deployed as sophisticated treasury management tools.
Exactly.
Walk me through how an LNO utilizes a flash loan in this specific context.
The objective is to optimize the velocity of the tokenized value without ever exposing the underlying physical asset. The LNO uses a flash loan to draw massive liquidity against the aggregate tokenized value of the trust.
Against the aggregate, right?
They execute mathematically guaranteed arbitrage opportunities within the permission ecosystem, secure the yield, and repay the loan all within a single block transaction.
In a single block.
Yes. The physical gold in the UPMA vault is never moved, never touched, and never put at risk. It remains the static, safe anchor while the digital layer generates the yield.
This yield generation isn't just a nice bonus for the client, though. It is a strict legal requirement for the Lex node operator. The ARISAI memo details of fiduciary duty, referred to as ratio playing.
An L&O cannot simply let the trust assets stagnate. Under trust law, a fiduciary has a duty of prudent investment. They must actively manage the trust corpus.
They have to do the work.
Right. In this system, they fulfill that duty by tactically reallocating the trust's assets on a daily basis across 3 specific precious metal tiers: gold ounces, gold dollars, and goldbacks.
Let's look at the math on this because the operational transcript is a fascinating breakdown. Imagine it's a Tuesday morning and the global spot price of gold drops. The L&O observes this market fluctuation. They instantly shift the trust's digital value from gold dollars, which are pegged to the currency, into gold ounces to capture a $4 market dip. They acquire more ounces at the lower price.
And when the market inevitably corrects and appreciates, the L&O executes a reverse ratio play. They shift the value back into goldbacks or gold dollars, securing a $14 mathematical gain.
And they are executing these hops entirely within the precious metals ecosystem.
They never touch fiat.
Right. They're never stepping out into fiat currency to realize these gains, which means they are completely insulated from fiat inflation and traditional banking interest rates.
Furthermore, because the L&O is a designated civil law notary, every single one of these ratio plays must be immutably recorded via a notarized exchange contract on the ledger.
So there's a permanent record.
Every microtransaction is transparent, auditable, and legally defensible.
This meticulous constant growth leads us directly into a mathematical concept the sources call the 1% rule. This rule seems to dictate the compounding velocity of the trust.
The 1% rule serves as the mathematical benchmark for evaluating the fiduciary's performance in compounding the trust's value.
The basic math presented in the document shows that if an L&O starts with a baseline trust value of $1,000, it takes roughly 10 sequential optimized transactions,
which they refer to as hops.
10 sequential hops to compound that value and push the aggregate managed trust assets over the $1 million mark.
It beautifully illustrates the exponential power of rapid tokenized compounding. However, the operational transcript provides a critical strategic nuance for the operators regarding where they should actually begin this compounding process.
Right. The transcript practically begs the operators not to start at the $1,000 mark, but to begin the process at the $2,500 fiduciary trigger we discussed earlier.
If the L&O begins the compounding process at $2,500 instead of $1,000, the trajectory of the mathematical curve shifts dramatically. It accelerates. They achieve that $1 million aggregate benchmark in significantly fewer than 10 transactions.
And the reason this matters isn't just about getting rich faster. It's about legal defense.
It is entirely about protecting the operator.
Because fiduciaries get sued.
All the time. In the highly litigious world of commercial trusts, beneficiaries can sometimes bring arbitration claims against a fiduciary, arguing that the manager breached their duty of care by not performing well enough.
By utilizing the $2,500 trigger to reach the $1 million aggregate faster than the standard 10-hop benchmark, the LexNode operator mathematically over-delivers.
They are building a quantitative shield against litigation. If client complains, the L&O can pull the notarized ledger, point to the timestamps, and prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that they exceeded the industry standard duty of care by hitting the benchmark early.
It is an airtight fiduciary defense built directly into the operational math.
It really is.
No, this all sounds incredibly robust while we're talking about ledgers, smart contracts, and UPMA vaults. We're building massive trust value, generating daily yield, and legally protecting the assets.
That's perfect.
But there is a glaring, unavoidable real-world friction point here. The sound money mandate strictly dictates that the trust must only utilize gold, and exiting the ecosystem into fiat currency is a breach of the trust.
Right.
So how does the beneficiary actually live their life? How do they buy groceries? How do they pay their mortgage? You cannot mail a Goldback to your utility company.
You can't. It is the ultimate collision between decentralized sound money purity and the inescapable realities of the legacy world. You have to interact with Caesar's system to survive.
The fiduciary trust architecture addresses this through a rigorous segregation of assets, which is outlined in the sources as the 4-account system.
This is a sophisticated application of the Roman law concept of patrimony. It's separating the personal estate from the commercial and fiduciary estates to prevent cross-contamination of liability.
The sources break down the 4 accounts distinctly.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, the personal account, which handles everyday consumer expenses like groceries and gas. Second, the business account, dedicated to corporate infrastructure and payroll. Third, the trust account, utilized for generational estate planning and asset protection. And fourth, the other account, which is the UPMA account managed by the Lex Note operator, acting as the operational fiduciary engine.
Maintaining this strict segregation is critical because of a legal concept known as constructive loss.
Constructive loss. Explain that.
Under the strict terms of the Lloyd's of London Master Insurance Policy and the overarching trust agreement, if a client decides to liquidate their protected gold ecosystem and converts those assets into fiat currency to hold in a traditional Chase or Bank of America checking account, the trust views that action as a constructive loss of the security.
Because they just traded an insured absolute asset with no counterparty risk for a centralized debt derivative.
Precisely. From the trust perspective, the value hasn't just moved, it has been fundamentally compromised. It constitutes a breach of the fiduciary standard of care, and it can trigger indemnity provisions or immediately void the insurance protections over that portion of the wealth.
So to solve the problem of paying the mortgage without voiding the trust, the operational transcript introduces a brilliant workaround they call seasoning with Caesar.
The phrasing perfectly captures the legal maneuver.
It really does. The client holds the vast majority of their core wealth in goldbacks inside the fully protected, indemnified UPMA ecosystem.
Right.
But to interact with the real world, the LNO sets up an integration using a TrueLink interface or a specialized card, operating alongside automated bill pay systems like Bill.com.
The Lex Node operator establishes strict payment parameters based on the tokenized policy value. When the client's mortgage payment is due, the system automatically discharges that specific, isolated external debt using fiat currency via the bill pay portal.
But the core wealth, the actual engine of the trust, remains securely anchored in physical gold.
You are building a micro bridge that flashes the physical sound money into the fiat ledger for split-second necessary transactions and then immediately closes the bridge.
You never fully exit the protected ecosystem.
Never. You give Caesar exactly what Caesar demands for the mortgage, but you keep the gold.
It allows the beneficiary to live practically in the modern world while maintaining the absolute legal protections of the fiduciary trust architecture.
Exactly.
We've covered how a client buys groceries and pays the mortgage. But what about massive commercial moves? The prompt from our listeners specifically asks how this system gets a business owner actual substantial funding.
The big money.
Right. If an entrepreneur needs $1 million to build out a manufacturing facility, how does this decentralized trust replace a traditional commercial loan and a FICO score? So what does this all mean?
This represents the absolute pinnacle of the system's commercial interoperability. It all hinges on how the Lex Node operator leverages uniform commercial code filings on the Justice Fund exchange.
Let's trace the UCC progression detailed in the materials, because it is a masterclass in escalating legal leverage.
Okay, walk me through it.
The process begins with the LNO filing a UCC1 financing statement on the notary chain. This simply establishes the public notice of the basic security interest over the collateral. As the trust performs and the ratio playing generates yield, the LNO updates that filing to a UCC3, noting the changes and amendments to the collateral pool.
But the true commercial power is unlocked when the Lex Node operator upgrades that filing to a UCC5. Under UCC Section 5115, a UCC5 is not just a notice of interest. It represents a legally codified right of indemnification.
Let's contextualize what that means for a bank underwriter looking at the file.
We established that the client's digital JSON asset is indemnified by the $100 million Lloyd's of London master policy, and it is anchored by physical gold in a UPMA vault.
Yes, fully insured.
Because the client is fully and verifiably indemnified against loss, the Lex Node operator, acting in their official capacity as a civil law notary and fiduciary, possesses the legal authority to issue a standby letter of credit directly to a traditional lending institution on behalf of the client.
The legacy bank isn't issuing the letter of credit. The decentralized operator running a node from their home office is issuing the letter of credit to the bank.
The LNO acts as a private sovereign underwriting entity. They are transmitting a perfectly formatted ACORD XML data packet to the traditional bank, and the data says, my client is requesting commercial funding. They are fully collateralized by insured precious metals, and here is the standardized DTCC compliant data and the UCC5 filing guaranteeing the right of indemnification.
The human underwriter at a legacy bank doesn't care about a decentralized smart contract.
They don't understand it.
But when they see a UCC5 backed by Lloyd's of London, packaged in the exact MTOM protocol their system requires, they accept it. It completely circumvents standard consumer credit scoring.
It bypasses it entirely.
The entrepreneur isn't begging for an unsecured loan based on a fragile FICO score. Their fiduciary is presenting a fully indemnified, legally perfected commercial instrument that the bank's own internal rules force them to recognize.
It seamlessly bridges the immense power of decentralized trust directly into commercially recognized massive fiat funding.
Which naturally leads us to a fascinating question posed by our listener prompt.
Yeah.
How can someone actually acquire a private banking license to do this?
The barrier to entry.
Right. How does a normal person step into the role of the Lex Node operator and gain the authority to pull these massive financial levers?
The operational transcript provides a highly specific and frankly astonishing answer to the barrier to entry. The cost to acquire this capability is approximately $40,000.
$40,000 to effectively charter a private commercial bank.
For $40,000, the prospective operator acquires what the system calls a Goldback box.
Physically, it sounds like just a high-end safe.
It is a physical safe, yes, but its legal framing within this architecture is vastly more significant. It serves as the physical instrumentality required to become a licensed issuer and redeemer.
It's the terminal.
It is officially designated as your notarial and underwriting terminal. By taking possession of this physical box and the specific negotiable instrument seated within it, the operator legally gains the authority to tap into that $100 million master policy umbrella and begin minting those triple threat digital sub-policies.
And the leaked transcript reveals an absolutely brilliant psychological strategy for how an operator can secure the funding to buy this $40,000 box in the first place.
Oh, this is clever.
Because you obviously cannot walk into a regional bank and say, hello, I would like a $40,000 personal loan to buy a private banking license so I can legally bypass your entire institution.
The loan officer would laugh you out of the building or flag your file for suspicious activity immediately.
The transcript suggests approaching traditional lending institutions and framing the acquisition of the Goldback box purely as essential business hardware. And framing the acquisition of the Goldback box purely as essential business hardware and equipment. The host in the transcript makes an incredible analogy. They compare it to a commercial landscaper going to a bank to get an equipment loan for a Bobcat tractor.
It is the perfect framing. A traditional bank deeply understands an equipment loan. They possess entire departments dedicated to financing the physical hardware necessary for a small business to commence operations.
So the prospective LNO secures a standard equipment loan for their business hardware that just so happens to be the highly specialized notarial terminal, granting them administrative control over a decentralized $100 million trust architecture.
It is a masterclass in weaponizing the language of legacy finance to build something that ultimately renders that legacy finance obsolete.
It perfectly encapsulates the entire ethos of the LexNode operator network.
It really does.
Now, while operating as a sovereign, private commercial bank from your study is mind-bending enough, our source material contains an entirely different, highly technical secondary operation that these LexNode operators are running.
The side hustle.
Yes, it involves media broadcasting and podcasting, and it ties back into generating digital value.
It seems like a massive pivot at first glance, but when you break down the computational mathematics of how blockchain algorithms validate data, it makes perfect operational sense within the ecosystem.
The sources detail a process of turning audio and video broadcasts into active block rewards. We are talking about the audio-video streaming crypto miner.
Okay.
The manual encourages LexNode operators to utilize media encoders to stream content, things like podcasts, local radio shows, or even free conference calls, as a unique, highly efficient form of crypto mining.
When most people envision crypto mining, they picture massive industrial warehouses in cold climates, packed with specialized ASIC computers burning through gigawatts of electricity just to solve arbitrary cryptographic math problems.
Exactly the opposite of a guy running a podcast from a laptop. How does streaming an audio file mine cryptocurrency?
It relies on exploiting how specific blockchain consensus algorithms process and validate data. The LNO uses readily available broadcasting software like VLC Media Player or SAM Broadcaster running on a standard Linux or Windows machine.
Standard software.
Yes, these programs take streaming media and encode it for transmission. Certain blockchain algorithms are specifically designed to monetize audio, video, and text data as part of their transaction validation process.
I think I see where this is going. When you stream the media through these specific encoders, the software isn't just pushing the sound out to the internet. It is generating massive amounts of text transcripts on the back end to process and package the data packets.
It acts almost identically to a hyper-fast court stenographer, continuously transcribing the data structure of the stream. And the blockchain algorithm reads that rapid text generation as transactional validation work.
So you're mining with words.
You are essentially hijacking the unused back-end computer processing power of a standard media stream and repurposing it as a highly efficient crypto mining engine that outputs Ethereum and Bitcoin block rewards.
That alone is fascinating, but there is a deeply counterintuitive point in the transcript regarding how to optimize this. The manual states that streaming strictly audio-only content, like a podcast with a completely blank video screen, actually achieves block rewards significantly faster than streaming a high-definition video.
This raises an important question. Why would processing less rich media result in faster mining rewards? It forces you to look at how a computer allocates its resources.
Wait, if there is no video to render, the computer isn't burning any GPU power drawing millions of pixels on the screen, right?
Right.
The graphics card is practically asleep. So the encoder is essentially running that text generation algorithm at lightning speed because the central processor is completely unburdened by video rendering.
You've reverse engineered the exact efficiency model. The blockchain algorithm reads the stream as if it were a full, heavy video file because of how the encoder packages the MIME type. But because it requires a fraction of the power to actually process the blank video, it results in a massively higher hash rate.
It's tricking the system.
A higher hash rate equals faster mathematical validation, which translates directly into a faster output of block rewards.
It is computational arbitrage.
Yeah.
You are tricking the algorithm into paying you for heavy video level validation work while only exerting lightweight audio level effort. And the operational transcript outlines a brilliant closed-loop business model for how LNOs utilize this in the real world.
They integrate it directly back into the sound money mandate.
The LexNode operator approaches local merchants in their community, specifically businesses that have already agreed to accept Goldbacks as payment. The LNO offers these merchants free or highly discounted advertising spots on their radio broadcast or podcast.
The merchant gets valuable local exposure to a community of sound money advocates.
And while the broadcast is playing the merchant's advertisement to the listeners, the LNO is running that stream through their back-end encoder, monetizing the processing power of the broadcast itself to generate crypto block rewards.
The broadcast literally pays for itself in Ethereum and Bitcoin while simultaneously building and serving the local physical gold economy. It is a perfectly self-sustaining loop of value generation.
It demonstrates the holistic approach of the architecture. Every digital action reinforces the physical anchor, and every physical asset is optimized by a digital action.
That's the beauty of it.
This has been an incredibly dense, rewarding exploration of a system that most people don't even know exists. To pull all these disparate, highly complex threads together, we started with a massive $100 million Accord 27 insurance policy from Lloyd's of London.
The anchor.
We watched as operators anchored that policy to physical spendable goldbacks, sitting securely in a UPMA vault, perfecting their security interest under UCC Article 9.
We then explored the critical data bridge, how that physical trust is translated into perfectly modeled XML data using Accord 2.2 era standards, allowing it to seamlessly pass through the draconian MTOM protocols of the DTCC.
We broke down how the LexNode operators, acting as sovereign civil law notaries, deploy an ERC 3643 smart contract. They utilize that brilliant $2,500 deductible trigger to automatically wake the system up and mint triple threat JSON subpolicies that act as money, collateral, and insurance simultaneously.
And we examine how this entire fiduciary trust architecture empowers those operators to completely bypass traditional credit hurdles. By filing UCC5 rights of indemnification on the Justice Fund Exchange, they can issue undeniable standby letters of credit for commercial funding, all while preserving their core wealth through the careful practice of seasoning with Caesar.
To you, listening to this right now, whether you are actively looking to protect your own commercial assets, whether you are prepping for a high-level meeting on the future of decentralized finance, or whether you just love understanding the absolute bleeding edge of global commerce. This deep dive proves that the very definitions of money, trust, and banking are actively being rewritten.
They really are.
And they're being rewritten by the people who know exactly how to format the data.
Which leaves us with a profound final thought to consider. We have spent the last hour discussing exactly how physical gold and centuries-old insurance policies can be tokenized to interface seamlessly with legacy banking infrastructure. But if a decentralized network of independent civil law notaries operating out of their home offices using $40,000 Goldback boxes can successfully issue their own standby letters of credit that traditional banks willingly and legally must accept, at what point does the traditional banking system realize it has been entirely bypassed by its own uniform commercial code?
That is the question.
What happens to the global financial landscape when the indispensable hardware of banking isn't a billion-dollar skyscraper in Manhattan, but a small physical safe sitting quietly in an entrepreneur's study?
That is a question that challenges the entire foundation of modern finance. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible deep dive. Keep questioning the systems, keep dissecting the data, and we'll catch you next time.
Introducing the Notary Chain UTXO Settlement Protocol, your gateway to secure compliant and transparent blockchain-based settlements. Harnessing the power of the ERC 3643 protocol and UTXO-based proof of funds, we deliver trust and legal certainty in high-value transactions. Our advanced cryptographic verification, zero-knowledge proofs, and hardware security modules ensure unparalleled compliance with global regulations. Experience near-instant settlement finality perfect for seamless cross-border transactions with reduced counterparty risks. Notary Chain integrates effortlessly with your existing financial frameworks using multi-signature verification and real-time threat detection. Discover the ALESC settlement framework and Goldback token for legally enforceable asset-backed digital transactions. Built to meet stringent regulatory standards, our protocol provides unmatched security and efficiency for institutional clients. Join the future of settlement with Notary Chain and redefine trust in both traditional and digital asset markets today.
Imagine a financial ecosystem that moves as one, where AI, blockchain, and other advanced technologies streamline processing, where trades settle with certainty. DTCC makes it possible by purposefully innovating for the global markets. Faster, smarter, more connected. Markets are evolving. We help you access new opportunities so you can grow. The future isn't far away. We're building it today. DTCC, financial
Are you a notary
markets
looking
forward.
to significantly boost your income? Justice Fund Exchange is your pathway to earning up to $35,000 per month. By combining cutting-edge legal, financial, and technological tools, we transform traditional notary roles, process high-value financial documents like digital judgment fund claims and UCC-1 financing statements for substantial commissions. Our platform leverages blockchain technology and the Uniform Commercial Code for seamless transactions. We offer comprehensive training and tools to automate, verify, and market financial instruments. Unlock a new revenue stream beyond your regular notarial services with Justice Fund Exchange. Join us today and elevate your notary business to new heights.